Okay, so it's January 11th, 2019, and we're here at Mom and Dad's house at the farm, and we're going to do some
more
videos,
stories.
some more stories today.
Yeah.
So, Dad, why don't you go ahead and start?
The thing I wanted to mention first is what put me in Virginia. I wanted to go into medicine because of my burns that I had when I was a teenager, and so I selected University of Utah rather than BYU, which was significant, and that's where I got my mission call. Was at the Federal Heights Ward, there next to campus in Salt Lake City, University of Utah. And anyway, when I opened my letter for my mission call, it was the Central Atlantic States, which put me in Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia. All those states was our mission. And when I went on my mission, I went by train, never realizing that when I said goodbye there at the train depot in Salt Lake City, that's the last time that I would see my mother. Because 6 months later, while I was serving in Bluefield, West Virginia, I got the call from my brother Dee that there was the airplane accident, and my mother had passed away after 3 days. I didn't get the call until after those 3 days, and she had already passed away. And Dad was paralyzed and unconscious for the next 3 months. He didn't find out that his Mom had died for 3 months when he woke up. Anyway, I elected to stay in the mission field. My brothers and the family all gathered together, and they were recommending that I stay in the mission field, which I really needed to do because I had a companion that hated the mission field, wanted to go home, and thought I was literally crazy for not going home to my mother's funeral. It did bother him a lot.
Worse
Much
than it
more
bothered
than
you.
Because I wanted to remember Mom the way she was when I said goodbye rather than in a casket. And so I stayed. Elder King lasted only 1 month with me because things got worse there in Bluefield. We had nobody to teach in the city, and I was a brand new senior companion. I'd only been out 6 months, and he hated Bluefield because it's a dirty town because of the coal. All of the railroad tracks centered in Bluefield. It was a coal mining area. And anyway, I stayed, and he to quickly tell the story of Elder King, he went through 4 different senior companions, and in the fourth one, he just packed his bags in the middle of the night and caught a train. He was met in Salt Lake City by Gordon B. Hinckley, who was not a member of the General Authority, but he worked for the missionary department.
That's right.
As an employee. And he met him along with another fellow. I don't know who that was, but he met him in Salt Lake when he got off the train. Told him how hard that it would be. It would be very, very difficult. His girlfriend, I'm sure, would have trouble. His mother would have trouble. He was an only child. His father died when he was an infant, and the whole goal of his mom was to get him on a mission and married in the temple, and had a great girlfriend, great ward there. In Mount Timpanogos area. And anyway, it came true when he went back to the ward. The ward had a very difficult time, I understand. His girlfriend didn't want to have anything to do with him, and his poor mother, it just literally broke her heart. And she ended up in the hospital, and in 3 months, she died.
Oh, God.
It literally just tore her apart.
Broken heart,
yeah,
supposedly.
He could tell he was losing it mentally, and so the last thing that President Hinckley told him, he says, "Now, if you get into trouble," he reached in his pocket, "Here's my card. You give me a call. We'll work it out somehow, because it's going to be very hard for your ward, your mother, and your girlfriend." Well, I guess he still had the card. He knew where it was anyway. He called President Hinckley in his office, and President Hinckley says, "Just come on in. Let's talk." Comes on in and calls him on another mission. Finishes his mission in Denver. That's the last I heard of how well but I know he finished his mission.
Good for him.
Anyway, I received after that, the president of the mission was Henry A. Smith is his name, and he was the editor, the main manager of the Deseret program, Deseret News.
And he was your mission president?
He was our mission president.
Was he your only mission president during your term?
And he was he was fairly old. He and his wife was fairly old, and comparatively speaking. Well, anyway, he was very kind to me. The next few companions, both of them were married men. The first one was a young married fellow, and he had his first baby 2 months after I became his companion. He had his child, and I remember handing out Tootsie Rolls. Instead of cigars, it's Tootsie Rolls. Well, anyway, we really did well. I knew right off that we couldn't continue in Bluefield, and we did have a car, and so we hit the country roads. And then we built a saddlebag type of thing that we'd wear underneath our coat. And in there was the pamphlets and the Book of Mormons and everything. And we'd carry 2 Book of Mormons apiece and all these pamphlets. And we'd go park the car in the country and walk, going down the country road, then cross over, walk all the way back to the car. And in the next 2 months, we started getting an awful lot of investigators coming to church.
Wow.
In fact, the next companion I had was Elder Smith. Dale, yeah. His name he was a doctor, a physician, and he was going to specialize into obstetrics because he was doing so much of that anyway. And so anyway, he and I, he was only allowed to go on his mission for 6 months.
So was that a common thing back then?
No,
still?
it was not. It was not, but they still did it once in a while. And Dale Smith, Dr. Smith, had 5 children. 5, yeah.
6. There were 6.
6 children. Anyway, and the oldest was turning 12 years old right away, and they wanted to do a bank for the mission, for his mission, and he said, "Dad, you didn't go on a mission, and why should I go on a mission?" So anyway, he turned to his wife that night, was there trying to go to sleep, and said, I need to go on a mission. And she agreed, you need to go on a mission.
Wow. And
they only allowed him to go 6 months. He had generals, apostles interview him, 3 different apostles to get that approval. And anyway, I got him 4 out of those 6 months.
Wow.
There in Bluefield. We absolutely doubled the branch. I mean, we were so successful. I mean, he was very powerful as a doctor.
Yeah.
And I knew the lessons and had memorized all of the scriptures and the lessons. And see, we doubled that branch. It was very interesting. Some of the great stories that I maybe add later came out of that. But the reason I'm telling this is because that put me in Virginia. And that's where the Merediths lived. And the whole thing goes together. If I hadn't had that call, and especially I served in her hometown 1 month there, didn't ever meet her or anything. But the very last of my time in Bluefield there was a zone conference, and Elder Niederhauser was serving in her hometown and is the one that reactivated her mom and dad and got her back going to church really good. And he was transferred at the zone conference there in Radford, and he said, "I don't have a companion. I need to go say goodbye to a couple of the families," and one of them was the Merediths, out on the road down. Instead of going way up to their house, was on top of the mountain. They all
church.
They met right there out on the road in front of the chapel. there in Hoag's Chapel is where and anyway, that's the only time that I ever really met Talmage.